Yes guys, I'm just going to do a quick one on skin prep and sizing and printing your stencil on. So the first thing I do when I get the client in is I'm going to size up the area where the tattoo is going. Now I actually do this before I do any skin prep. Once I've sized up roughly the size of the tattoo that's going to be, I can use this tracing paper to go to my iPad screen and then scale the reference image. Once I've drew the size of the reference, I'm ready to print my design. And the skin's ready to be prepped. So the first thing I'm going to do using tattoo soap is clean the area. Once I give it a wipe down, I just need to shave off any hairs that are on there. When I'm shaving, I use these disposable razors. They're absolutely class. But I'll also use red out calming foam, massage that onto the skin, and then take off any hairs that need shaving. So I'm just gliding over the skin gently, taking off any hairs. I'll always shave a little bit past the size of the tattoo, so essentially the tattoo boundaries I'll shave a little bit past there. Once I'm happy, wipe off any excess. At this stage I'm examining the skin and seeing if the client needs moisturising. If I am moisturising at this stage, I'll moisturise the skin and then I'll leave that to set onto the skin while I do my design. So I'm designing the tattoo for around 45 minutes or so. That moisturiser's setting into the skin, and then I'll give it another clean off with tattoo soap once I'm ready to print. Guys, so when I've drew my reference of the size of the tattoo on the tracing paper, I can now draw my reference onto the screen. So I've got a rough size guide of where the tattoo's getting positioned, and the scale of the tattoo. So here's the tattoo that I'm doing. Here's the stencil that I've prepared. Now I've got my stencil and I've got my size reference. I can now position it to best suit where it's going. Once I'm happy, I can send this across to the printer. And then I'll print off the image and cut it out, and then it's ready to go onto the skin that I've already prepared. And then I'll just cut out the tattoo that I'm doing. When it's wrapping round like a leg or something like that, quite often I'll put a few little slits round the design, just so that when it's folding it doesn't like collapse on itself and double print in places. So it just allows you to wrap it round the leg a little bit easier. And I can test it against my reference. This is what I've drew up. That's the size reference, and now my tattoo print out sits perfectly on there. So I'm good to go. Right guys, so the print's good to go. So what I'll do is I'll place it in position and then I can start manoeuvring it around till I'm happy. Once I'm happy with the position, I'll just mark it at the bottom and the top with a Sharpie pen and then just put a little cross to show where it sits. So the skin's been shaved, prepped. I've used the tracing paper to size up the size of the tattoo. Now I'm about to put the print on, but what I'll do finally is I'm just going to clean the skin with this tattoo eraser, which is like a tattoo, sorry, it's an alcohol spray which is going to degrease the skin. It's my secret weapon for making sure tattoo stencils stay on solid. What you'll find is, particularly in summer months when it's quite hot, the customer might be clammy, the skin might be a little bit greasy or sweaty. If you just slap the print straight on and it's not binded to the skin properly, you can find that it can just smudge away really easily. So the blue spray helps to degrease the skin. It's an absolute must, can't recommend it enough. For stencil cream I'm using the Anchored. A big tip for this, if you put too much of it on, you'll find that your stencil will smear and you'll find that bits of it will be patchy. If you put on too little, your stencil's not going to bind everywhere, so you'll have little patches where there's no stencil. So what I'll do is I'll massage a little blob around the skin and I'll keep massaging it until the layers spread evenly and it's spread everywhere. Once I'm happy, what I'll do quite often as well is I'll have a piece of tissue in my left hand and I'm just wiping off the excess that's in my hand so there's not too much stencil cream on the skin. Once I'm happy, I'll just lower it till it finds its place. Again with this one, and I've said it time and time again, people really stiffen up with this and you'll find that they place the stencil on and it can end up double printing in places. So if you just let it drop into place and then start to smear it from the middle outwards onto the skin, the little slits I've put in as well have helped to easily fold it round the sides. Once I've pressed it down everywhere, I don't just rip it straight off. I'll give it a minute or so to sit onto the skin and I'll just keep pressing it down to make sure I'm getting a solid print everywhere. Once I'm happy, I can peel it off. When you're peeling it, a good indication that you've left it on long enough, the stencil sheet, is that it's pulling on the skin a little bit. So it's dried enough where it's really put on a solid print. Then I can take off that peel off. Got a nice clean solid print everywhere. I'll give that 5 minutes to dry before I start tattooing. And you'll find that if you follow these bits of advice and these tips for stenciling, you should get on a really solid print like that. Thanks guys.